On the night of September 28, 1994, the MS Estonia disappeared beneath the Baltic Sea in less than 1 hour. One of Europe's most modern passenger ferries took more than 850 lives with her. The official story tells us this was a tragic accident, a storm, a mechanical failure, a ship overwhelmed by nature. But for many, that explanation has never been enough, because disasters leave wreckage, and wreckage leaves questions. According to investigators, the bow visor of MS Estonia was torn away by powerful waves. Once the visor failed, water flooded the car deck. The ship rapidly lost stability. She rolled to starboard, and within minutes, she was beyond saving. On paper, the theory made sense, but reality was far more complicated. Survivors described something very different. They spoke of violent, metallic bangs, not once, but multiple times. Some said it felt like an explosion. Others described a deep shock, as if the ship had struck something solid. Moments later, the list became severe, too fast, too extreme. Many maritime experts quietly agreed. A bow visor failure, a loan's hood, not have caused a rapid capsize. And yet, those testimonies were largely ignored. Then came a decision that would forever change how the disaster was remembered. The governments of Estonia, Sweden, and Finland declared the wreck a protected maritime grave. No recovery operation, no full forensic examination, no raising the ship. Diving was banned. Exploration was forbidden. Even photographing the wreck was considered a crime to the families of the victims. This felt like closure without truth. Why seal the wreck instead of investigating it? Officials claimed it was about respect, about allowing the dead to rest in peace. But critics saw something else. A rush to silence, a fear of what might be found at one point. A plan was even proposed: cover the wreck in concrete. Permanent underwater tomb, a way to erase all remaining evidence. Public outrage eventually stopped the plan, but the damage was already done. Trust was gone. Years passed, and then, slowly, another story began to surface. Documents revealed that MS Estonia had previously transported military equipment, not publicly, not declared to. Passengers, sensitive radar components, electronics, with strategic value. Officials admitted the shipments had been in earlier voyages, but they firmly denied that military cargo was on board the night the ship sank. For many, that denial raised more questions than answers. If secrecy surrounded earlier trips, why should anyone assume the final voyage was different? Then, in 2020, everything changed. A private expedition released new footage, the wreck. Footage that showed something official reports had ever mentioned: a massive hole in the hull, jagged, irregular, large, enough to be seen clearly even in low light. The discovery shocked the public. Authorities responded quickly, suggesting the damage came from impact with the seabed. But experts disagreed. The seabed beneath MS Estonia's soft sediment, not solid rock. Could such terrain really tear open steel in that scale? Once again, investigations were reopened. Statements were revised, but definitive answers remained elusive. Today, Ms. Estonia lies silent beneath the sea, not just as a grave, but as a question mark. Was this a tragic accident? or a disaster shaped by secrecy, haste, and fear of the truth. The storm that night eventually passed, but the controversy never did, and perhaps it never will. When we talk about MS Estonia, we are not just talking about a ship. We are talking about trust, about responsibility, and about the thin line between tragedy and truth. For the families of the victims, the disaster did not end in 1999, for it continued in silence, in unanswered letters, in sealed reports, in unanswered phone calls. Many families begged for the ship to be raised. Not for spectacle, but for answers. They wanted to know how their loved ones died. They wanted confirmation. They wanted honesty instead. They were told to move on. The decision not to recover the bodies was devastating. More than 500 people remain inside the wreck. For some cultures, this is deeply disturbing. For some families, it made mourning impossible. Critics argued it, labeling the sight a bars. Not an act of compassion, it was an act of convenience. Raising MS Estonia would have been expensive, politically risky, and potentially embarrassing. It might have revealed constructs flaws, regulatory failures, or decisions made in haste, or worse. It might have revealed something no one wanted to explain. Over the years, independent investigators continue asking questions. Why did the ship list so fast? Why did emergency systems fail? Why did official timeline change multiple times? Even the bow visor itself became a subject of debate. Some experts argue the damage on the visor inconsistent with wave-induced failure alone. Others pointed out that sister ships with similar design had suffered visor damage without catastrophic loss. So, why was MS Estonia different? Then there is the hull. The hull damage discovered in 2020 forced governments to reopen investigations once again. New surveys were conducted. New explanations were offered. But to many observers, it felt like history repeating itself. Statements were careful. Language was vague. Certainty was avoided, because certainty creates responsibility. If the sinking was preventable, someone must be held accountable. If the ship carried sensitive cargo, someone must explain why. If evidence was ignored, someone must answer for it. But decades later, accountability remains absent. What remains instead is a fractured narrative, an official version that explains just in auto-function, and an unofficial version, built from survivor testimony, new discoveries, and unanswered questions. Neither side has fully won. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, or perhaps it lies buried beneath layers of politics and fear. MS Estonia does not need another theory. It needs transparency, because the victims deserve more than silence. They deserve the truth, even if that truth is uncomfortable. Until then, MS Estonia will remain known as the most haunting maritime mysterious of the modern age. A ship that sank in a storm, and a truth that never reached the surface.